Mike's going live. Mike's live.
Wow, are we loud? I'll tell you, that's the way I like it. I need it loud because I'm going to pound into the heads of the good people of America the simple truths that make this the greatest country in the world. Tonight on Pep Talk, we have a trio of topics with major concern to our listeners, and they are ice cream, child rearing, and the implications of the European debt crisis. Three topics which at first glance bear little relationship to each other, but as the song goes, you can't have one without the other. But first, something more important. It's finally dawned on me as I sit here night after lonely night preaching my message of conservatism and truth to the people of this great, great, great land of ours, the United States of America, that we are lonely here. Well, I'm lonely here. There's nobody else here. If I implied that there was a we, I would be speaking, of course, about Richard, who produces the show, but right here in front of the cameras, right here in front of the microphone, there's nobody but me, old Pep, and I'm lonely. It's beginning to wear me out, coming up with these ideas for the show, defying people in both parties who say, Pep, you've gone too far again, and I tell them, gone far? I haven't done anything of the sort. So here's what I want to do. There's a chair over here next to old Pep. It's empty right now, but it doesn't have to be that way. I'm looking for a man, a red-blooded, high-flying, heat-seeking, hard-driving he-man. A man of conservative tastes who loves America more than he loves his own children. I'm looking for somebody to be my sidekick. I'm looking for somebody to be my Dick Cheney in this fight without an end to save this country, America, from the clutches of liberalism and blue dog Democrats and neoconservatives and neoliberals and all of those neos. I can't stand the word neo. What's wrong with the English prefix new? Neo has always reminded me of Neo fiddled while Rome burned. And I'll tell you something, Rome is burning right now, boys and girls, and I need somebody to help me along, to help me with all kinds of difficult tasks in this crusade to save America. The chair is empty, but it needn't be. If you're man enough or woman enough to fill that chair, all you've got to do is contact me on my page at Pep Talk. Send me your resume and tell me, more importantly than a resume, because resumes can quite easily be fabricated, why you feel qualified to sit next to old Pep, to be his wingman as we dogfight with the dogged forces of liberalism. And that's all I really want to say about that. But it'll be a great time here. You know, the compensation is great, and I'll tell you, the girls really go for a guy with a pink jacket. Don't let Bubbles know about that. And anybody who goes downstairs morning, noon, or night wearing this pink jacket, you get a pink jacket, of course, is always going to get treated to a free cup of coffee by Dave, as long as Eddie's not there over at Johnny Cakes. Anyway, moving right along, today we have a trio of topics. Ice cream, child rearing, and the implications of the European debt crisis. Three topics which at first glance, as I said, bear little relationship to each other, but you can't have one without the other. I'm working with one of these new iPads, another nefarious invention by the late Mr. Steve Jobs, who many considered to be a messiah. I considered him to be perhaps not quite that. Perhaps he had a little bit more devil in him than people would like to admit, because thanks to Mr. Jobs and his iPhones and his iPads and his computers, the youth of America are losing touch with reality. I'll get back to that in a little while, and this is one of the reasons I'm having so many problems today with the establishment. I just don't think in the box. I want to do something for America, and, I'm gonna tell you something. We all like to treat our kids to the best things in life, but sometimes you can go too far. And I'm referring to something innocuous at a glance, innocent, something delightful, something harmless, or at least it was until the liberals got their hands on it. And I'm talking about, can you guess? Can you guess what I'm talking about? Sure like to have a sidekick and go, I'm guessing, Pep, but I'm not getting where you're going. And I say, that's why I'm number one. That's why you're number two. But I don't have anybody like that. All I got is an orange and white cat who writes these scripts at home, and they get stoned on catnip. I just can't continue this way. I love the cat like a son, but he's got a lot to learn. Probably have to go into rehab after this. Is going to cost me a lot. I hope Bubbles is going to be in an altruistic mood. She likes the cat too, but by no means does she consider the cat to be one of her own children. That's the way it is. Anyway, I'm referring to something that's delightful, harmless, and at first glance wonderful until the liberals got their hands on it, and I'm talking about ice cream. It's no surprise to good, clean living conservative Americans that our children, our kids, the precious future of America is constantly besieged by a non-stop barrage of information, or better put, misinformation manufactured in liberal think tanks and universities with the intention of confounding the decent people in America and confusing them until they are ready marks for the siren song of socialism. It's enough to scare the pants off of you. Do you realize what they're doing? Confounding American children with a surplus of information. It's bad enough what they're sucking off the internet, but when they get around to contaminating ice cream, that's when old Pep has to say enough. That's when old Pep has to say you've gone too far. But what does ice cream have to do with such sinister subversion? The answer is plenty. The liberal conspiracy functions by attacking the weakest points of the population and by presenting the populace with a surplus of choices. Again, I've said that dumb them down so they can be easily controlled. Suddenly the poor dupes find instead of their imagined cornucopia of selections, rather that they have no choice. They had no choice but to submit to the boot of socialism. Now consider the plight of a toddler in an ice cream section of a suburban supermarket. Mommy, Mommy. Yes, darling, what can we do? You want ice cream? Wow. The poor child is almost hypnotized by the plethora of flavors in front of his eyes. His mind is swirling in chaos. He doesn't know what he wants to do. And wanting to please him or her, the child is asked to choose. Good people of America, can you imagine the anxiety that this poor little person undergoes? When we were younger, it wasn't so. They were basically, instead of hundreds of exotic, cosmopolitan, esoteric, multicultural flavors, we had a simple choice. We had vanilla. We had chocolate and we had strawberry. It was as simple as red, white, and blue. There might have been pistachio, but any rare bird who went out of their way for that peculiar flavor was already under surveillance by Mr. Hoover's ever-vigilant G-men. Ours were straightforward choices, and then, as always, the liberals decided to act. Men such as Ben&Jerry, well-known subversive types, acting out of Vermont, that hotbed of revolution and sedition, conspired to change the world of ice cream. Protected by laws that were intended to protect us, they built a company which functioned like a mad scientist's laboratory, where they created hundreds of foreign flavors designed to increased adolescent anxiety and produced a whole generation of obese neurotics. People who are unwilling to work, and people, of course, who are partial to socialism. My message is therefore simple. When men speak of ice cream, of abundant choices, they really imply liberalism, and liberalism is a mere stone's throw from socialism. And from socialism, communism lurks just around the corner, tempting your child with ice cream. The more flavors, the more danger to our precious freedoms. That's all I'm gonna say right now. I don't want Ben&Jerry's hit squad laying in wait for me when I get home tonight at Eagle's Claw. Although if they do, they've got a surprise waiting for them, because old Othello is probably out there in the bushes with a 30-06. We're not going to back down. We want ice cream for our kids, but we want ice cream that they can understand. We want the simple flavors. We want vanilla, and we want chocolate, and we want strawberry, maybe coffee for some of the adults, maybe pistachio, but that's all we want. We don't want all of these foreign flavors contaminating our youth and giving them all types of anxiety issues. It's ridiculous. How did it come so far? A couple of hippies up in Vermont have practically brought America to its knees with ice cream. It's enough to scare the pants off you, and I'm gonna now have to take a little break and basically do a little commercial, as I said. For over 40 years, Fairchild's Funeral Parlor has helped us to deal with the grief and trauma of death. Fairchild's has economic payment plans as well to make sure the bereaved are not buried alive by burial costs. At Fairchild's, we say, them that dies will be the lucky ones. So if anybody in your family is beginning to smell a little funky, call up Andy at Fairchild's out on Broadway here in Nyack and say Pep sent you, and you might get a free cup of coffee, and Andy'll be glad to discuss all the burial plans that they offer at Fairchild's, and he'll show you his new selection of coffins. They're absolutely beautiful. I was looking at a few yesterday, and I said, I almost can't wait, Andy. And he said, no need to, Pep. And then he said, I'm joking, Pep. And I said, I hope you are, Andy. I hope you are. But there'll come a time when even old Pep is going to have to go and meet his maker. And I can think of nobody I'd want to have lower me down into the ground while all the people sob and cry. We're going to miss you, Pep. But you're in good hands with Andy of Fairchild's Funeral Parlor out on Broadway in Nyack. And that's all I have to say about that. It's wonderful to have sponsors of this quality and caliber as Andy, you know, there. It's really quite something, you know, makes me really, really happy. I'm not afraid of dying at all when I know I've got buddies like Andy at Fairchild's. You know, recently old Pep has been talking about something, and this is one I could use. A sidekick. You know, I could say, recently, old Pep has been talking about something, and they might say to me, what you been talking about, Pep? And I said, haven't you been paying attention? And, you know, they could kind of chide me on and say, well, you know, Pep, you know, we basically get the idea of what you're talking about. You're talking about saving America, and I'd look at him stern-like, and I'd go, yeah, I am, and, you know, it would be nice to have somebody here, but I don't, so I'll have to soldier on alone. I've always soldiered on alone. I'm that kind of a guy, you know. I guess it has something to do with my uncle, Arnold Pepper, and, you know, he was a colonel in the Army. Wonderful guy, wonderful guy. You know, he used to tell me all the time, Pep, I'm the luckiest man in the world. And I'd say, Uncle Arnie, why are you such a lucky guy. He said, you know, Pep, this country is too damn materialistic. You can blame the liberals for that. And, you know, they're not good conservative folks like the Pepper Clan, you know. What they've done is basically injected anxiety into the American people with this keeping up with the Joneses mentality. It's been going on for quite a while. People wake up and they're completely neurotic about what they're going to wear. I said, Uncle Arnie, I guess you're right there. I've often experienced that. I mean, you know, do I wear the pink jacket? Do I go without the pink jacket? Do I put on the bow tie? Do I wear the braces? I go, precisely, nephew. He said, you know, I'm the luckiest guy in the world. I've been in the Army my whole life, and there has not been a day since I swore an oath to Uncle Samuel that I didn't know what I was going to wear. And, you know, that's a good idea. We're thinking about that. It might be a good idea to have everybody in America wear a uniform. I mean, we're going that way anyway. And, you know, that's another thing I'd like to address. One of the big problems in America today, we don't have anybody to fight. I hate to say this. I mean, Saddam Hussein was a lightweight. These tribal people in Afghanistan, oh, they're dangerous, no doubt about it, but they don't really amount to much. We need a real threat. We need a new Hitler. Hey, what are you going to do about it? You know, it's like Uncle Arnie always said, you know, look, if you fight a little guy, it doesn't take you anywhere. If you win, you're a bully. If you lose, you're a bum. You got to fight a bigger guy. Win or lose, you're a hero. And we just don't have that possibility right now. And I was talking to some of the boys about this, and they just don't seem to get the message. That's why I've broken off for a while with people like Carl and West and all of these fellas. I mean, God bless them. They are good conservative folk, but I just don't. I have to be honest with you. Ever since Madam Hepzibah said that I might be, I'm not going to say that I am. I don't want to insinuate anything, but I've been inspired by the fact that I might be the reincarnation of Teddy Roosevelt. Teddy took the Republican Party in a new direction. And I'm beginning to feel, and this is what I'm stressing in my campaign for the mayor's office of Upper Nyack, that I was selected for big things. The Republican Party is lost at sea right now, as easily evidenced by what's happening in the primary. I mean, we've got Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney, the Mormon jellyfish, is all over the board. He has no plan. He doesn't know what he's doing, and he's going to get his butt kicked in the election. Mark my words, I've been in this political game for a long, long time. He just can't win. There's no way this fella's going to win. That's when I introduced my ideas about shifting the party to the center ever so gently as to attract the moderates and the women and the blacks and the Hispanics. And boy, oh boy, did I run into a heap of trouble. People didn't understand what I wanted to do. I tried to explain to Karl Rove. I said, Carl, you gotta change so things will stay the same. And he just couldn't grasp it. And I've been talking to other people too, and now I find myself about as popular as John Huntsman. It's really crazy. I didn't think the boys were gonna turn on old Pep. But I told them it's like football. You can't play the flying wedge anymore today, not in this era of the California offense. You gotta open the game up, you gotta liberalize it, you gotta play with your head. And I wasn't getting through. So I've been sitting back and trying to figure out ways that we can save America, but it's a daunting task. Recently, again, I had been talking about education, and that's something that is also getting me down. But you know what Bubble said to me? She said, Pep, she's not around right now. She's down in Haiti with Jane Fonda. Well, anyway, it's not the worst thing that could happen. You know, I'm sitting around the house to myself, and it's allowing me to do a lot of thinking about things. And, you know, I started thinking, Pep, why don't you mentor some of the young fellas and the young gals of America? You've got so much to offer, and, you know, Bubbles will probably be very impressed when she gets back and sees that you've got something going. So what I decided to do was to put my money where my mouth was and ask kids what they wanted to do with their lives. And to this end, I got myself a room at one of the local churches and had Big John, my de facto sheriff, round up a bunch of the kids and bring them to me. And I sat the kids down and I said, don't worry. You're not under arrest, you're merely under suspicion. It's all perfectly legal as outlined by the Patriot Act. And one of the young guys there said to me, well, what is a Patriot Act? And I said, well, the Patriot Act is the Patriot Act. And anyway, sit down. And I said, I want to talk to you guys. You know, it's really sad. You know, a lot of people have kids these days who they spoil. But very few of them have kids that they mentor. I mean, when I was a boy, I was fortunate. I had Bingo. He was my father's handyman and my surrogate father, and every time I had a problem, like how do you throw a spitball, I'd go to Bingo, who had a lot of experience, having pitched in the old Negro leagues, and that's why I was a prep school star pitcher, you know? I mean, I was loading that. Anyway, so, you know, I start talking to the kids, and I realize immediately that they don't have a whole lot of information about what the world's really like. I say, well, what do you boys want to be when you grow up? And the kids say to me, one of them says, I want to be in business. And I said, well, what aspect of business do you want to be in? And they don't know. I said, you want to be in finance? Do you want to be in marketing? Do you want to be in market research, et cetera, et cetera? Just, you know, reading him the old list of activities, and the kid was lost. He just looked at me, and I asked another kid, what do you want to do? And this kid said to me, I want to star in a reality television show. A reality television show, I said? He said, a reality television show. And he explained and outlined the kind of thing he wanted to do. I could barely understand what he was talking about because these children are caught in an unbreakable chain of electronic addiction, strung out on loud noise, bright lights, and brain-dead dialogue. These kids have no literature, they have no poetry. Consequently, they cannot express themselves when the time comes. They cannot think metaphorically. They can't speak in complete sentences. And that's going to cost them big time. I said to one of them, what would you do if you were in a job interview and the guy asked you, the interviewer, he said, son, what would you do? Why should I hire you? And the kid says, well, I'd say I'm the best. And I said, my God, the best? Have you ever met a used car salesman that didn't say that that old wreck with its wheels falling off wasn't the best car on the lot? They looked at me, and they didn't know where I was going. So I said, you know, I'm going to teach you a trick. An old IBM trick called pencil selling, and Big John looks at me and says, Pep, you're going to sell pencils? And I said, no, Big John, watch and learn. And this is the kind of thing I got to put up. God bless Big John. He's a wonderful man, but as they used to say back home, God bless him, he ain't too smart, but he can lift heavy things. And I said, son, did anybody ever teach you to think analytically? And they look at me and they go, what's that? Did anybody ever teach you, I said, to describe something anecdotally? Now that really got anecdotally, I said. And the kid looks at me and he said, Mr. Pepper, I don't know what the word means. And I said, does anybody there for $10 know what an anecdote is? And they shook their heads. No, of course. They said, why doesn't somebody go get the dictionary? Well, I'm not going to say they didn't know what the dictionary was, but they had a lot of trouble finding the word because they really didn't know very much about alphabetizing. What is happening to this country, I'm asking myself. What have the liberals wrought with their silly, stupid, self-serving theories about what education is? There's no hickory stick. There's no discipline. There's nothing anymore. It's just warehousing of these kids. It's enough to scare the pants off you. Well, finally they understood, with a little prompting from yours truly, what anecdote meant. And they were kind of shocked that there was another word for story. Oh, my God, the lack of variety in their vocabulary. And I said to these kids, look, I'm going to teach you how you sell. What are you doing at a job interview? I said, little boys and girls. And they said, trying to get a job? I said, no. I said, what are you doing? And we went back and forth till I finally got so angry I burst out and I said, you're selling yourself. Don't you understand? You got to sell yourself. Every act in this world is a sales job. It's like Red used to say to me, and Red Pepper knew a little bit about business, mister. Red used to say, if you shake a tree, very few good salesmen will fall out, but a whole lot of jerks who are ready to take their place in the back office will pile up. It's enough to make you sick. Scare the pants off of you, what it is. Everybody today is afraid to say what they are. A salesman, you gotta sell it. That's what Pep is. That's what I am. I'm here right now, selling you America, selling you my vision of America, trying to make people who are doing things wrong do things right. And I'm going to sell it to you one way or another, whether I have a sidekick or whether I got to go it alone. But that's another story. And I say to that kid, son, this is how you do it. I said, instead of me, I say to the interviewer, answering these questions, I'm going to ask you a few questions. What do you need from the guy who you're going to hire? And he says, and I say, okay, you get that down, and then you grab a pencil or a pen and you put it in your hand. It's called pencil selling. It's developed by the boys at IBM, and man, were they salesmen at Big Blue. And I say, son, you say, I got a pen in my hand. Now, you have just detailed to old Pep what you think is required of a man who's going to work for you. If I can tell you a story now that demonstrates everything that you're looking for, do we have a deal? Are you ready to sign on the dotted line? I was selling hard, and old Satan would have been proud of old Pep. I could have sold Satan anything at that moment because I was in a zone. And the kids are looking at me and they're saying, Pep, is this the way you do it? And I said, watch. I said, once upon a time when I was a young boy, I had a boat. And I used to make money in the summer, ferrying people back and forth from one island where we summered to a smaller island across the way. One day I had 5 people on the other island and my motor broke down. How was I going to get them back? I was a young boy of 13 and I weighed about 75 pounds. What did I do? Some of the other boys who also had boats offered to take my passengers back, but they would have taken my fares. I wanted those fares so I could buy myself lunch. So what I did was I got my rowboat, and I rowed all the way across. And I said, "Ladies and gentlemen, excuse the inconvenience, but we're having momentary technical difficulties with our motor. Instead, I'm going to have to row you back." 5 large adults got into my rowboat, and I started pulling for the other island. It took me 20 minutes, and it wasn't easy, but I pulled, and I pulled, and I pulled until we got to the beach across the bay. And I jumped out and I pulled that boat up on the beach, and they all got out, and they were applauding. They said, "Bravo, young man. You have just shown us the spirit of America." I was 12 years old and I weighed 75 pounds, and I rowed that boat across the choppy sea to claim my money and to live up to the deal that I had made with these people, to get them there and to get them back. Later on, I was walking up the road, and a man called to me. He was one of the old fishermen who lived on the island, one of those red-faced Yankees who took his chances every winter on the wine-black sea. And he said to me, "Young man, what you just did today was one of the greatest things I've seen anybody do in quite a long time. You lived up to your word, boy, and there's nothing in this world that is more important to a man than living up to his word. Without that, you're nothing. A contract is mere paper, but your word, boy, that's something." And then he walked away. "Mister, am I the kind of man you want working for you? Here's a pen. Let's sign the deal." And those kids were looking at me with an admiration they'd probably never felt for an adult in their whole lives, because they had been lied to by their own kin. They had been dragged down the trail to liberalism, to "Do something for me, government, please. I can't take care of myself. I can't honor my contracts. I can't live up to my word. I want you to take care of me." Is that what we want, America? Is that what we want, or do we want that little boy rowing his boat through the choppy sea with 700 pounds of corpulent Americans, hoping that he doesn't falter, because if they do, they don't know how to swim? But that little boy, who was myself, didn't falter. He got them back to the other beach. He collected his money, and he walked home proud, with his head held proud. And when his mother said, "What did you do today?" little Pep said, "Mom, I just did what a man's supposed to do. Nothing more, nothing less." Ladies and gentlemen, that's the kind of message I gotta get back to on Pep Talk, and I hope they get me a sidekick to help me out. But if they don't, I'll still be here next week. And I'm gonna give it to all those liberals, and I'm gonna give it to all of those phony Republicans who've stolen the party of Lincoln. You watch out. Pep's back. Pep is back, and he's angry. God bless you. Come on back. You know where we are. You know what we do. We know what you need. God bless you. I think I just got elected Senator of Utah.
Hey, it's the angry Hugh, baby. What's up?